After the legendary monster gets a feel of just how delicious Mukota's food is, it forms a pact with him to be his familiar. To do this, the two join heads together, sealing the contract. Shortly after, they finish forming the familiar contract. The Fenrir asks to be named by Mukota. This surprises him even more since he didn't have any ideas for a suitable name for the beast. After a slight moment of contemplation, he comes up with awful names like Pochi and Hachi, of which Fenrir wasted no time in blurting out his dislike for them. While this is going on, Mukota's fellow travelers are still hiding behind a rock as they observe the situation. On the other hand, he continues to think of a name and eventually comes up with Fel, extracting it from his existence as a Fenrir. Hearing this, the Fenrir is pleased and agrees to have Fel as his name. From that moment, continuing on their journey, the people are scared when they see Mukota and his crew. This is because of the large Fenrir they now have traveling with them. Werner notices this and talks to Mukota about his worries. He apparently is worried since they are now approaching the borders to the kingdom of Venin. When Mukota seeks to know what exactly is making him worry, he is told that they would definitely be stopped on their arrival at the border. This is due to the fact that they are traveling with a Fenrir who is known in history for having the power to destroy a whole country. Werner believes that the kingdom of Venin will not let Mukota in since he is the one who is tied by the familiar contract to the Fenrir. Hearing them say all of this, Mukota is devastated. He's worried about the fact that he had just successfully left his previous kingdom to avoid such problems, but now happens to find himself in another problem. On arrival into this world, seeing him worried, the Fenrir Fel urges him not to worry and assures him that he will destroy anyone who tries to mess with him. At this moment, their deepest fear comes to light. While watching, Fel says this to ease the tension. Fel reminds them that it is time to eat. Upon being reminded, Fel shops for some food from his interdimensional portal. Fortunately, he's able to find some meat that he had kept aside from earlier. However, it isn't enough to feed them all. Just then, Fel informs Mukota about his intentions to eat meat. This prompts Mukota to inform him about the shortage of meat, urging him to catch meat for himself if he wants to eat. Without wasting much time, the now hungry Fel returns into the woods in search of a good source of meat. Watching him leave, Werner wonders why Mukota didn't just use the meat he had. However, Mukota reveals his intention to make Fel provide his own food. Hearing him say this, the others are thrilled at the fact that he can now order a Fenrir. While they say this, he becomes uncomfortable and reveals that Fel had only done the familiar contract with him because he wanted food. Furthermore, he reveals that Fel is a glutton who loves to eat a lot. Shortly after, Fel arrives with a large bird, demanding that he prepare the meat quickly. Looking closely, Werner identifies the bird as a rock bird, a B-rank monster. Furthermore, he reveals that they had barely defeated it a while back, even after using all they had. Fortunately, one of them informs the others that the rock bird's claws and beak cost a lot. Meanwhile, due to how large the monster is, Mukota seeks their help in skinning it while they do this to gain the expensive claws and beak. Mukota wishes that they do so he can get the meat he needs. When they're done, Mukota is left with as much meat as he needs. He grills the meat on both sides, removes the excess oil, and mixes it with sauce. When he's done, he hands them a plate each. At this moment, Fel comes demanding for his share, but Mukota tells him to be patient since he had to do everyone else's portion before doing his. Shortly after, Mukota feeds Fel with as much meat as his stomach can take, and his stomach definitely took most of the rock bird meat. When they're done, they continue on their journey and arrive at the border of the kingdom of Venin. Using a telescope, Mukota sees a lot of soldiers outside. When he informs the rest, Werner believes that it is so because of Fel. He, however, offers to go to them in order to explain the situation they are in. Furthermore, he urges them to wait behind while he goes. Watching him go, Mukota wonders if he is going to be okay. However, he is assured that Werner would be able to sweet-talk them. A few moments later, Mukota and his crew find themselves surrounded by armed soldiers. The captain of the soldiers seeks to know if Mukoda has really formed a familiar contract with Fel, and he replies positively. As much as the captain is shocked, he maintains his calm and openly utters his disapproval of the Fenrir, which can destroy a country, from getting into their kingdom. To ease fears, Mukoda talks to Fel, informing him that the people are only worried that something would happen if they let him in, asking him openly if he would rampage. In reply, Fel doesn't seem to have an issue with them but assures them that he won't do anything to them as long as they do not mean any harm. Hearing him say this makes the captain believe further that the Fenrir has now become Mukoda's familiar. After a brief moment of contemplation, he agrees to let them in but pleads with Mukoda to keep Fel in control. Immediately, Fel promises him that there will be no food for him if he causes any problems. Hearing this, Fel reluctantly agrees to do so. Werner, however, joins his voice with Mukoda, ensuring the captain that Fel wouldn't cause any trouble, most especially since he didn't do anything bad on their way to the kingdom. Having been allowed to enter the kingdom, they are asked for their guild cards at the gates. Unfortunately, Mukoda knows nothing about this as it sounds so new to him. Also, since he has no guild card, he is asked to pay 5 silver coins for him and 2 silver coins for his familiar. Meanwhile, when they finally gain entrance into the kingdom, they are all excited. Mukoda, on the other hand, is thankful to them for traveling with him. However, Werner believes he would get busy from now on since the stories of the Fenrir and his master would spread and get to the ears of the Marquess of the area and even the king. The mere thought of this bothers Mukoda, but he's relieved after remembering that he doesn't plan to stay in the kingdom for too long. Instead, he intends to travel around while making profits using online grocery to achieve his aim. Werner suggests that he joins either the Adventurers Guild or the Merchants Guild. Hearing this, Mukoda immediately believes that joining the Merchants Guild would be the best for him since he sees himself running a food stand and selling new products. His friends, however, wonder how he intends to skin the meat for Fel if he joins the Merchants Guild. Fortunately, he is told that the Adventurers Guild can skin and purchase the remains of animals from him. With the two guilds being so beneficial to him, Mukoda is left troubled as to which one to join. Just then, he's informed that he can join both of them if he's unsure. However, they convince him to decide after they reach the town. Just before entering the town, Mukoda is asked to pay some coins, and this causes him to lament, mostly because he's now running out of coin. On entering the town, they are met by the Marquess's servant who informs Mukoda that his master wants him to visit the residence. Upon receiving this information, Mukoda doesn't seem interested but doesn't openly state it. When the servant insists, he states that a mere man like him shouldn't be meeting with honorable men, but the servant continues to convince him. When Fel sees how uncomfortable the situation is getting for Mukoda, he steps in and threatens the servant into leaving him alone and running off to his master. Seeing him run away, Mukoda feels it is too much, but Fel assures him that it is the only way people like that can understand. Seeing what just happened, Werner wonders if it's okay to deny the Marquess's invitation, but Fel shows that he is ready to take anything being thrown at them. Shortly after, Werner demands Mukoda's signature as they get to the point where they are forced to part ways. After signing, Mukoda says goodbye to his traveling buddies, with just Fel left with him. Mukoda heads to the Merchants Guild. On the way there, the people are terrified to see a Fenrir and either exhibit shock or hide in fear. When Mukoda gets to the Merchants Guild, they are thrilled to see the Fenrir behind him. He is met by a beautiful lady who gives him a brief explanation of what the Merchants Guild is, further stating that it is divided into 5 levels. To begin, the lady advises him to start at the iron rank and offers him a guild card to complement his membership. Before leaving, Mukoda asked to know if the guild can purchase anything. In reply, he is assured that they do, and this prompts him to promise to bring his goods when next he comes. Later in the day, Mukoda leads Fel to a shed where he can sleep since he isn't allowed to sleep in the inn. While Fel has no issues with sleeping there, he reminds Mukoda about the fact that they have not had lunch. When Mukoda remembers this, he decides that they will have an early dinner instead. For dinner, he prepares a large chunk of meat for Fel. While cutting his cravings, Mukota's appetite for rice is heightened, and he decides to cook that for himself. While frying the meat, Fel hungrily lurks around. When he is done, he uses different sauces to spice up the meat in order to make it tastier. As much as Fel loves all the sauces, he chooses to stick with the garlic-flavored sauce. Meanwhile, Mukota's rice is ready, and he spices it up with some steak and sauce. Seeing how Mukota eats his food, Fel demands for some. After eating and while tidying up, Mukota is thankful to online grocery for being able to eat good food like this even while in a different world. Later in the night, Mukota retires to his room, and he's pleased to sleep on the bed after a long time traveling. The next day, Mukota heads once again to the Merchants Guild. This time, he goes there with some goods to be sold, handing them to the lady. When she sees it, she immediately runs in to meet her master. Shortly after, Mukota is led to meet him. Just then, the head of the Merchants Guild offers to pay Mukota 14 gold coins for them. This surprises Mukota, who had bought them for just 5 copper coins. While he's still processing the shock, the man continues to increase his bid, up until 17 gold coins. At this point, Mukota is forced to stop him, and the two reach an agreement. With the money Mukota had made from the sales, he realizes that he doesn't have to worry about money for a while. Before heading home, Mukota remembers to head to the Adventurers Guild. Getting there, he receives a rather cold treatment compared to that which he received at the Merchants Guild. This he attributes to the fact that he had come without Fel. He's given a form to fill and little to no information about what the guild entails. Then he is asked to sort out for G-rank missions and work his way up to A rank, which is the highest rank for an adventurer. Later that day, while looking at the tasks for the G-rank adventurer, Fel comes to remind Mukota that he is hungry, and the latter wastes no